Welcome to our special day of the wisdom of birth. We've stopped counting because that's far too linear. And we are welcoming Robin Lim today. And I'm going to hand straight over to Shasta to introduce her. Thank you, Shasta.
Thank you so much, Corey. Good morning, everybody. It's so good to be here. Yesterday was an interesting day because both Robin and I were experiencing huge storms, power outages, internet issues, so even though we're on different parts of the planet. So I am so happy to be introducing Robin, Lola Robin, Ubu Robin. She is midwife, grandmother, mother, protector of mother and child. And Robin is a passionate human rights and childbirth activist. Ibu Robin's work goes beyond something that's easy to describe in just a few sentences. Her influence is just so wide-reaching, and she's touched the lives of women and babies across the globe. And her work is so deep, so impactful that she's won numerous accolades, awards and acknowledgements. Robin won the CNN 2011, I think it was, Hero of the Year, that celebrated the impact of her work, particularly with the Yayasan Bumi Sehat clinics that she set up to help treat Indonesian women for free. Women who would not be able to normally attend or afford having a skilled birth worker in attendance. So Ibu Robin and her devoted team members are often the early responders to global disaster events. She brings care and healing following earthquakes and typhoons, and at the moment is building a global initiative with Deborah Flowers called Awakening Birth, which is incredibly exciting. And Ibu Robin is also an author. Thank you so much, Ibu Robin, for joining us today. I'm feeling so privileged and deeply grateful to be here on this day. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have to show you pictures while you're here. So in the Philippines, in Palawan, can you see this mama? She gave birth in our birth center a few minutes ago. And let's see, I will show you another picture. I don't have the one that just gave birth at Bumi Sehat in Bali at the moment, but there was another one today in Palawan earlier. Well, this was her in labor, but she had a baby girl. So, and on the birth stool. So I guess every day for me, it's like such a celebration, you know, whether I'm actually at the birth or if it's far away in the Philippines. We have 2 birth centers there. We have 4 in Indonesia. And I feel like the most important work we do is one-on-one with mother baby. And I don't even like to, when I type mother baby, I put them in one word. So they're never separate, even in my writing and in my thinking. And the midwives all over Indonesia and the Philippines. Right now, I have one of our midwives from Papua staying in my house. We have such an incredible family of shared vision. And so for me, when Gauri asked me to come here and share with you for this beautiful wisdom birth gathering, I just thought, yeah, opportunity. I mean, that's one of the things about the COVID, even though it was really hard for so many people, really, really hard. I was online a lot. You know, I was teaching midwives in Argentina, in Brazil, Italy, all over the world, really, where we got together and doulas and midwives and birth keepers got to share with this Bumi Sehat vision. Oh my goodness. You have your baby with you. Tanika. Hi, Tanika and baby. Thank you for bringing the baby. Wow, beautiful. So I think so that we have time for questions, Gauri, can you go ahead and share my placenta slideshow? Because we're going to talk about placenta today. It's one of my passions. My mother said to me, well, actually, she said to my daughter, she said, please don't tell my friends in the Philippines that your mother wrote a book about placentas. And then she asked me a couple days ago, she said, what book are you working on right now? And I said, well, I'm working on one about vaginas. So I think for my Filipino mother, she just laughed. It was really hard for her. So that's just the cover of Placenta, the Forgotten Chakra. It's actually now in Spanish, it's in Russian, it's in Italian, it's just gone into French, and it's going into Hungarian. It's not in Indonesian yet. We're just a little bit nervous about sharing with the greater Indonesian medical community, since they already barely tolerate what we do. You know, sometimes they contact us and tell us that we have to clamp and cut the cords faster. And we say, thank you for that information, but we always wait. Many of our families go home with the placenta still attached to baby. With, you know, we salt that placenta up. And many of our families, you know, want the cord burned off or cut off, but they like that we wait a minimum of 3 hours in all of our centers. Okay, next slide, Gowrie. Can you all see the slides? No.
Yes.
I'm not looking at your chat. Oh, you've been trying to find this book, huh, Laverne? It's in French. Yes, it is. And I can send the, Gowrie, remind me to send you the link. You can email it to everybody. Okay. And Hands of the Birth Keepers. I just love this photo. It's just, this Dukun Bayi was with me at a birth, probably close to 30 years ago here in Bali at home in a little tiny, like falling down bamboo house, a few villages from here, a little up the mountain. And it was just an incredible birth. And it was her great-granddaughter's birth. And so her great-great-grandchild was being born, and she was a traditional birth keeper. It was just amazing to work with her. Okay, next. And I just wanted to acknowledge Ganesha, because for me, I live in a very Hindu place, but we also have about 20% of our moms that come to us are Muslim, and about another 10 or 15% are Christian. There's a few Buddhist moms, but I would say the majority are Hindu. And living in a Hindu village for these 30 years, I've really come to know Ganesh as the keeper of families, and I see Ganesh as the placenta. You see the trunk is the cord, the umbilical cord. And I just, yeah, this was actually a Ganesh that the high school boys in the village all got together and carved this in my yard. So it's in front of my kitchen. So anyway, Ganesh, I feel like as the protector of families, the placenta is the protector of families. Okay, next. I want to just give a nod, a tribute to one of my great teachers, June Whitson. If any of you have been watching or did watch the Call the Midwives, June Whitson's one of her partner midwives when she was a domiciliary in and out midwife in England in the 60s was Jenny Lee, who wrote the book. And the character Trixie is actually really based on June's real life. And she came to Bali many, many times, even when she was in her last months and weeks before cancer took her. But she came and really taught me about really not following the medical model, especially when it comes to mothers, babies, and placentas. She was really incredible. And she used to say, the most important thing in your birth kit are your prayers and maybe a bendable straw, but you can even do without that. Okay, next. And Janine Parvati, I don't know if any of you know, if you've seen her books. She was very famous for Hygeia, the First Woman's Herbal. She also wrote Conscious Conception, a book I really highly recommend to all of you birth keepers, and Prenatal Yoga. The first prenatal yoga book was Janine's book. And Janine was in a very interesting mix of Jewish and Native American. And when she spoke, I would have to bring several handkerchiefs with me because I would cry and weep. And she wore around her neck a little cloth bag, and in it were the cords that had fallen off of her children. And she really originally taught me about lotus birth. And she was the original person that said peace on earth begins with birth. Okay, next. So now that you've had a little bit about my own heritage as a placenta birth keeper, this is one of my mother's bellies that she asked for this placenta birth keeping image to be painted on her belly. Okay, next. Okay, when you are in the Philippines, in any of the hospitals, you'll see this poster where it talks about the unang yakap, the first embrace of life, being the most important hug you'll ever get. And that immediately drying the baby on the way to putting the baby skin to skin with mother. And it says properly timed cord clamping and cutting, which means never to do it immediately, and non-separation of newborn and mother and early breastfeeding. So even though in the Philippines, they actually prefer that the births happen on those horrible OB beds, those tables, which are crazy. They still have this very, very almost strict delayed cord clamping and cutting protocol. I'm not saying that all of them there are really good at delaying for a long time, but for sure at our 2 places in the Philippines, we're delaying for 3 hours. And anyway, I just love it that in that entire country, my own mother's motherland, the first embrace is so honored. Okay, next. And Gauri is going to make this available, this slideshow available to all of you. Oh, Ina's leaving. Okay. Okay, so placentas and vaginas. So it's okay. You've recorded this, yes, Gauri, so that you can send this to people. Okay, so you see how full and beautiful and ripe that umbilical cord is. Actually, this is a little boy that lives across the street from me here, right across the road. You can see his house from here. This is several minutes after birth in the water, and maybe because of the water birth, it just stayed so full and just kept pushing and pushing the blood and the stem cells and all the oxygen rich nutrients to the baby from the placenta through the cord. And he now has 2 little sisters. So I just love this picture, because in a hospital that would have been cut already, it would have never been allowed to just do its job. The cord wants to do her job. Okay, next slide.
I love how his hand is also just resting on the cord, like it's, part of him, of course. And there.
Right. And he feels a comfort because we watched his hand moving up and down. So beautiful. So beautiful. Okay. And, there's a beautiful Instagram page called Wait for the White. And you see the cord containing all the baby's blood there. And on the right, the cord after the placenta transfusion has already happened. So we must wait for the white. I mean, it makes complete sense. It's to me, everything. Okay, next slide, Gary. Okay, and here's some timing that talks about blood volume. So as the minutes go by, if you cut the cord during the first minute, the placenta is full and the cord is full of blood and the baby's not as full. And then you get a little more in 2 minutes, you get a little more, and then by 3 to 4 minutes. Now, I disagree with the 3 to 4 minute protocol. I think that clamping and cutting the umbilical cord causes the mother's oxytocin to drop. And so when she sees the clamps and the scissors, the cord clamps and the scissors, she is at risk for hemorrhage. So that if you don't want to put the mother at risk of an oxytocin low, then you just keep baby skin to skin and let them breastfeed and don't do anything. Let the placenta be born, put it in a nice bowl on the side, put flowers in there and leave it alone for hours. And that is our protocol in all of our 6 centers, our Bumisehat centers. Okay, next. So this is, again, you'll get this slideshow because Gauri is going to send it to you so you can always refer to it, but this shows you what happens with early cord clamping and cutting. And it's a little bit complicated to try to, I mean, even when I look at it after all of these times, after all these years, I'm always a little bit confused by it. But if you look at it, you can see how the heart is changing, how it pumps, and it's going from taking oxygen and nutrients from the placenta, transitioning to taking oxygen from the lungs. And so it's very important, I feel, to not rush this time by immediate clamping and cutting of the cord. You know, sometimes you'll hear people in the hospitals say, oh, but when you clamp and cut that cord right away, the baby screams. The baby screams in protest and shock, not because it's a good thing. You know, we want the baby to cry a little bit at birth, but we don't want the baby to scream and protest and shock because they've been cut off from their main source of oxygen, which is through the umbilical cord. Okay, next. So this is, again, very technical. If the umbilical circulation is closed, the flow from the caudal caval vena through it's very complicated, but you can read this on your own when you are looking at this. Basically, it just talks about the physiology of the changeover from being an underwater creature as a baby, underwater in the amniotic fluid, which is the salinity of the oceans, to then you become an air breather. And it's very important, I feel, that we do a very physiological, slow, gentle transition by leaving the umbilical cord intact and keeping the baby skin to skin with mother. Okay, next. Okay, and then here they're showing the physiologic or delayed cord clamping and cutting. You know, after the lungs are already breathing, after the baby's already settled into being an air breathing creature. And then you can see that it's a much more gentle, more, now I don't know why they have this little oxygen thing. I guess that's to show oxygen going to the lungs. They have a little thing that they don't need there. But it really just shows how during that gentle transition, there will be a shearing off, a change from placental oxygenation to the baby's circulatory system through the heart to the lungs providing that oxygen. So it's a really beautiful and a miraculous thing. That's why that moment of being there when the baby is taking her or his first breath is, to me, just amazing. I love it. And I never get tired of it, no matter how many thousands. Okay, next.
Okay, if you guys need to come here, please do. And then I'll just move to another room. I'll just sit and listen here. And then.
Okay. And so this is Dr. Alan Green. And he talks about at the moment that a baby's born, and I'm going to show you this in a bit, a third of their blood is still outside their body in the umbilical cord. And if you delay clamping by 90 seconds, you get 60% more of the blood cells. You get enough iron to last them through their first year. You get enough white blood cells to fight infection. You get the antibodies, you get the stem cells. Now, I asked Dr. Green, who's a pediatric specialist, I asked him why he really was saying 90 seconds. And he says that for him, he would rather have hours like we have at Bhumi Sehat, but he feels like to get the medical profession on board, if you want a big change, you have to go in baby steps. And so I'm hoping that he'll start going in giant leaps than baby steps, because as a grandmother midwife, I can't bear for any baby's cord to be clamped and cut. I just can't bear it. Okay, next. And I don't consider 90 seconds a delay. It's not enough. So here's an exclusively breastfed baby with their, I think this was a boy. Yeah, he was a boy. And his placenta's in a little stainless steel, a nice size stainless steel bowl right there with flowers from our garden. And he's right there, belly to belly with mama, breastfeeding. Okay. I feel like the reason that at Bhumi Sehat we have 100% breastfeeding mothers And that does mean that we follow up and we go on motorcycles to the mother's houses. They usually stay 2 or 3 days until breastfeeding is quite easy. And then we do follow up by going on motorcycles to visit them at home, so we can really make sure that no one is interfering with the breastfeeding. You know, there isn't a grandmother or an auntie going out there buying bottles and infant formula. And okay, next. Valerie, next. Okay, I love this photo, and I love this photo. We do a disaster relief. We respond to disasters. This was in Nepal, and for some reason, this gray colored tent that was so beautifully donated to us with solar lights, and it was from Direct Relief International. Whenever the sun shone on it, it would turn this beautiful color like the inside of the womb. And Sapana's name means dream. She lost her family in Nepal. She arrived at our tent to give birth to her second baby. And she said, I have no love to give to this baby. She said, I want to give birth to this baby and I'm going to walk away because there is no love in my heart. I lost my parents, my husband's parents. Her husband was on a cruise ship and they wouldn't let him come home to even cremate the dead in his family. And then she had this incredible experience where the baby was born just to the waist. And we used to just throw the babies right up on the mom, but we decided to take a pregnant pause between pregnancy and birth and just let the baby come more slowly and hold the baby there so the mother could see the baby. And she reached out for her baby and she said to him, are you mine? Are you mine? And then after a while, with the other hand, with both her hands, she took him to her heart and she fell in love with him. And we were able to actually use I think it was the WhatsApp or something, and we were able to get her husband on the phone. There was really good internet connection because the phone companies in Nepal after the big earthquakes really helped to keep people connected. They did that in Haiti as well. And so they had a good cry together about being so separated. And then he and she discussed the name of the baby, and they bonded, even though he was long distance, and she bonded to this baby. She thought that her heart was so broken she couldn't love, but I feel like this is what gentle birth does. And even in the tents, we have stainless steel bowls or whatever bowls we can find, and we put the placenta right beside the mother and the baby, and they breastfeed, and we do the lotus birth, even in the tents, even in disasters. Okay, next slide. This is a lotus birth in Indonesia. I think this baby's 3 days old. The next day, the cord released with no violence, no cutting. And that's Den Bagus. And you can see that the placenta there is wrapped in white cotton, like toweling, and it has salt. And anyway, and it's just, lotus birth is a family experience. I find that the children don't go very far from the home. When the baby's still connected to the placenta, they'll stay very close and they won't venture out very far until the placenta is released. And then they feel like they don't have to stay so close. I feel like the other children in the family become the guardians of the mother, baby, and placenta as a trinity. Okay, next. So this is weighing a lotus birth baby. This mother and father did not want their baby to be severed from the placenta until the cord would release in a few days without any violence, just completely by itself. And all of these things, weighing the baby, measuring the baby, can all happen with the placenta intact. Don't worry, it's something you can do. All of those medical procedures should never happen until baby's breastfed for a few hours and been snuggled in, and the mother and baby are really ready to do these procedures. And we do them right there with the mother on the bed and the father together. Okay, next. Now this is, I got this photo off the internet and I just wanted to show it. Unlike Bhumi Sehat, there's no flowers in there, but I love that that the placenta is floating with the mother. What I don't love about this, and I see it on the internet every single day now, all the time, is that the mother has this wet bra on. And all of our moms at Bumiseha, when they get to that point of labor, it becomes really uncomfortable. And they're feeling like the baby's moving down and they're getting ready to give birth. Even if they're Muslim and they've been very shy and covered their whole body, they start tearing off their clothes. And the mother naturally, I feel like in an undisturbed birth, wants to prepare to put that baby skin to skin. But when a mother, and God bless this mother, but when a mother is preparing to put her birth on the internet, she'll wear a yoga bra. And no criticism of these moms, but I'm just wondering how we've gotten to that point in humanity where we're wearing wet yoga bras and the baby's not going skin to skin. The baby's going skin to wet yoga bra. And we need to think about that. And I have had mothers, of course, who say they feel more comfortable covered up, but every single one of those has been planning to put her pictures of her birth on the internet. So interesting, something to think about. Okay, next, Gowrie. And here is just a picture that shows the burning of the umbilical cord. And this was hours after the birth, hours and hours. And oftentimes we'll sing Gayatri mantra while we're burning the cord. Om Bhurrbhuva Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam. So, and the children will come in, the other children and the other kids in the family, and we'll also sing. And we do wrap the baby. We use those 2 layers of thick cardboard as heat guards. And we do find that when the families decide that, say, after a few hours, they want to burn the cord off, we find that the cord stub, even though we leave it pretty long, like 8 to that's Gayatri mantra, Bridget. You can Google it. It's what every school kid sings here in Bali in the first thing in the morning, and it's greeting the soul as we want to greet the baby as a soul. So when our babies are crowning, we're often singing that, if the family's Hindu and wants it. So in this case, I find that the children all want singing. If they're Christian, they'll want a Christian song. If they're Muslim, they want praying, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Allah Akbar. They will want a sacred sound, being not people just talking while the cord is being burned. But this is a way of releasing the cord. And we find that the cord stump, even though it's much longer, when you burn the cord, it does dry up faster and fall off faster than one that's been cut with scissors. And there is an old Chinese, from ancient Chinese medicine, in many, many historical recordings of up to 6,000 years old, in which the cord is burned with fire using candles or using like a moxa stick. And the reason that they do that is to move the last bit of chi from the cord into the baby, which you don't get if you cut it with scissors. So also here, culturally, it's cutting with scissors is considered a dangerous thing to do because of the risk of tetanus toxoid in the tropics. Okay, next. Next slide, Gowrie. Okay, so this was in tsunami in Aceh after the big tsunami. And this is traditional birth attendants who we originally taught before we had a clinic, but when everybody was living out in the open, there were no tents even. People were happy if they had a blue tarp to put over their family. But we originally taught the traditional birth attendants to burn the cord so that nobody would be using dirty scissors that would cause tetanus toxoid to spread to the baby. But we taught the traditional birth attendants, and here there's traditional birth attendants, one in the foreground and one you see there. Both of them have now died of old age, but they're teaching the younger midwives, the ones that are licensed by the government. I love it that in Aceh and in many places in Indonesia and the Philippines, traditional birth attendants, like my Lola, my grandmother was a hilot in the Philippines, they're teaching the young birth keepers, the young licensed midwives. They're adding a deep indigenous knowledge to their more medicalized knowledge. I feel like it really is a beautiful balance. Okay, next. So this is a placenta that released from the baby with no violence after, I believe, 3 or 4 days. This was Talita, our little girl, Talita Halila. She's now a teenager, but that's her father holding the placenta to show this, that he salted it and then it released, and then he's putting it in a coconut to make a proper burial for it, a respectful burial like you would a member of your family. And just to show you how nicely the salt prepares the placenta for its next phase of existence. Okay, next. And there, the father has put the placenta inside a coconut. He put an offering of prayers. Sometimes they'll put a little bit of rice and a little coin. These are things to bless the baby on. They'll write a prayer. The people here in Indonesia, most Indonesian cultures, there's specific details, but most of them do the placenta like this with the coconut. Now, my husband, when our son Hanuman was born, when his placenta released, he'll be 30 in February, he put a guitar pick in there because he wanted my son to have music. And I think he has music like a superpower. He really has music. Okay, next. So I love this picture. The mother hasn't reached for her baby yet. This is Lorena. She's a survivor in the Philippines of the big super typhoon that most of her neighbors lost some of their children. She was really blessed that all of her children were really good swimmers. And when the ocean surges came in from the typhoon, they were able to survive. Anyway, and she's just waiting for that mother to reach for her baby. You see the cord's intact. And we usually in the Philippines, we sing Alleluia, Alleluia. Wikain mo, puuna kikiinga ko sa iyo, mga salita. Alleluia, Alleluia, Alleluia. Because all Filipinos know that song. And I don't sing it well, but it doesn't matter. Sing anyway when the babies are crowning. And so now this mom, in the next moment after this picture was taken, she reached for her baby and brought him to her heart, or her. I'm not sure if that was a girl or a boy, but I love that photo. And I have to say that Lorena would show up to the birthing tents in the Philippines during this big disaster. And she would look so pretty. We would all say, oh my gosh, Lorena, you're a super. And sometimes she would put on really pink lipstick. And we would say, you know, we're having a disaster here. I mean, 100% of our patients in that first year of our mamas, 100% of them were homeless. If they had a shack, they were fortunate. They were living in the open. And she would show up so pretty. And she said to us, she says, this face with this lipstick, I don't do this for a man. I want to look beautiful for every mother who looks at my face. I'm giving her a Valentine. And I really love that about her, that she loved those mothers so much and she wanted them to know it. And she's on her own small island of Camote, is where she was born, running her own birth center now. She's doing great. Beautiful work. Okay, next slide. So birthday cakes, actually this one's square, but I like it better when they're round. In the Druid tradition, and Janine Parvati told me this, in the Druid tradition, they would make them like with strawberries and cherries and red things on them. And then they would put 3 candles to signify the 3 vessels, you know, of the umbilical cord. And they would not blow out, the Druids did not blow out the candles. Now, after this song, we took the candles. There's a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old celebrating their birthday together. We took all the candles off and we put them on a little plate and let them burn out so that they have a natural lifespan. We don't blow them out. And we just honor the placenta as the mother cake. And that's why every year on your birthday, people make you a birthday cake, because they're not celebrating you so much as your placenta, which kept you and your mother alive during the pregnancy. So isn't that cool? Okay, next. So this is a tree. There it has the baby's birthday and the name of the baby. It's a tree where we've planted a placenta because the family was traveling and they gave birth at Bumisehat and they don't have a home. They just, we just help them to bury the placenta this way. Now this tree's gotten really, really, really big, this mango tree, and it's already gone up the mountains. I take it to a piece of land that our family has way up in the mountains, and I plant them there so that we can give fruit to the people from the placenta trees, and then the families can go there later and they can visit their placentas. But yeah, there are so many ways to, after the cord is released, to honor the placenta, which is your angel. The Balinese believe, in most cultures in Southeast Asia and the Pacific Island peoples, like from my mother's culture, they believe that the placenta is the physical body of your child's guardian angel, which is why you have to honor it. You can't just throw it in the medical waste or in the garbage. And when they hear that that happens in hospitals in the West, they get really sad. I've seen people burst into tears when they ask an American, what happened to your placenta? Because the question really is, where is your home? Because where your home is where your placenta is buried. And when a Westerner says, oh yeah, the hospital threw it in the rubbish and it was probably incinerated in the medical waste, really, honestly, the people here will cry if they hear you say that. Okay, next. These are some dream catchers made with the umbilical cords, different styles of dream catchers. I'm really into making dream catchers. So even if you do a lotus birth, and you've salted that placenta and there's salt on the cord, be sure to wash as much as the salt off and then dry it. Have I been muted long? Gowrie? Okay.
No, sorry, that was a mistake.
So those are dream catchers, just two different styles, really simple, easy to make, and so much fun. And when you're making a dream catcher, the baby will guide you. Yes, more placenta medicine. Whoops, go back. Go back. Just one. Can you do it? Yes. So here's some more dream catchers. Each one is different. I also encapsulate the placenta medicine, and I also make the tincture with like a strong ethanol or even vodka. You can use vodka or something. So there's capsules, and there's the offerings for the placenta, and then there's the tincture. The tincture, you can keep adding alcohol. Yes, you can encapsulate after a lotus birth. If the placenta was well salted, and you have to just feel it in your heart and smell it. And then I don't encapsulate a raw placenta. I follow the ancient Chinese method just to make sure. I mean, I am living in the tropics and bacteria grows faster. So I do put it in the steamer. I steam it with ginger in the water, and I steam it for about 20 minutes on each side to make sure that, and if it's a lotus birth and it has been salted, of course, we always use the nice sea salt that's the big chunky kind, not the really finely ground salt. Some people use Himalayan salt, that works well too. And then we wash as much salt off as I do that, washing the salt off, and then I steam it. Salt is medicine. There will be some salt with the placenta when you have had a lotus birth, but if you use good salt, salt is medicine. But I do wash most of it off, but you still get the benefits, and I love it. And you see in the foreground there of the placenta with the fruit bowl, there's a knife, an old Balinese knife with a little red onion, like a shallot on the end of it. And that is something very traditional. And then the stick broom there, that's very traditional here. I remember waking up after my first sleep, after I had my son Hanuman here in Bali, and I woke up and I noticed that there was a knife with an onion next to me in the bed, and there was a stick broom. And I said to my husband, I said, why are the baby and I sleeping with a dirty broom and a rusty knife? And he said, don't move it. It's to protect you from spirits. Yes, yes. The salt dries it out. The salt dries out and it protects from getting any kind of bacterial and kind of infection. Yes. Okay, next slide.
Sorry, Robin, can I please ask a question?
Sure, yes.
What is the belief in terms of a lotus birth? Obviously, everyone plants the placenta afterwards, you know, to regrow and rebirth another tree. So if you had to encapsulate it, what is the belief of that?
Well, it really depends on the family, you know. I have very few Hindu Bali families encapsulate, but a couple of them have. One of them did because she had a daughter who had who got really, really sick and had seizures, and the hospital where she was taken care of and she pulled through said that it's too bad that we don't have some of her encapsulated placenta medicine. We could give it to her and speed her for her full recovery. So when they had their next baby, they did that just in case for anyone in their family. They have the tincture and the capsules, and they keep those actually the capsules in the refrigerator, just because I don't like to put placenta or capsules in the freezer because it's so cold, and the babies of those placentas that are in the freezer often have cold blue hands and feet. But it really depends on the family. What is there? What resonates with them? We're all reinventing our traditions right now. I mean, this is a very special time on Earth with all the craziness going on, the natural disasters, the unnatural disasters, the wars, all of those things that are going on right now. We are being forced spiritually to reinvent ourselves and to reinvent what we interpret as our religions and our family, and how do we integrate our traditions and our religious beliefs and all of those things with what we know from our inner knowing. And I feel like that's one of the keys. The placenta is like a key to helping families find their own inner knowing. And so they ask a lot of questions, and I keep throwing it back on them. How do you feel? What would you prefer? Because your baby's placenta, your own body, they're all talking to you, and your ancestors are talking to you, and they're helping you find, a way. Now, some people who encapsulate the placenta want to plant a tree. And I say to them, okay, if you don't know when you're going to plant that tree, either we can take a piece of the placenta off before we dry it, or you can take some of the capsules even much later, and you can go plant a tree and open the capsules and sprinkle the dried placenta, which is very concentrated medicine, around the roots of the tree you're planting or whatever you want to plant. I know that a couple that I did a birth for in North America, they went back to the forest where they had conceived their baby. They had made love, and they planted a little seedling, and they put the placenta, powdered placenta from 2 or 3 capsules there among the roots. And they did a beautiful ritual. It was so beautiful to bring their baby back there to where she was conceived. So anyway, this is just a slide for your reference, that you can, that I really do believe that we have to be really clear that the blood in the umbilical cord is not cord blood. It is baby's blood. And so that when you are in the hospital and you have, like I have had mothers say, well, I'm going to give birth in the hospital because I want to donate my baby's, my cord blood. I want to donate the cord blood. And I say, no, you're donating 1/3 of your baby's blood, not cord blood. So just keep remembering that. It's not like, I don't think any mother wants to donate 1/3 of their baby's blood. Nobody would give that away, but they're under the illusion that the blood is for the cord. It's not. It belongs to the baby. It's not the umbilical cord blood. Okay, next slide, and then I'll show you a little more. Next slide, Gary. I think the next one's the last one. That's my granddaughter, who just happens to be in this kind of funny place playing. And on her 3rd day, she went wireless, and she's 6 years old now, but her dad is a musician. He's kind of a well-known Balinese rock star. And so he put it all over the internet that his baby was unplugged, that she was wireless. It was really amazing. It went viral. Okay, so I'm going to take questions, and I'm also going to show you. Oh, This is my grandmother. She was a Hilot, my Filipino grandmother. And my newest granddaughter, my 2-year-old granddaughter, has eyes exactly like hers. And so does my grandson, Tashi. But she was receiving babies during World War II, before World War II in the Philippines. Oh, and I love this. These are the placenta books in many languages. Go ahead. And of course, everyone in those days when my grandmother was alive and practicing, they all did lotus birth. So placenta, the forgotten chakras in many languages. It's in Spanish, so many languages. Okay, and next. And I love this because we live in a time of so much uncertainty. This is when our volcano was beginning to erupt. And this couple someone snapped a picture of them watching the volcano erupt and listening to their baby. And I just want everyone to know that the babies are listening. And what I tell fathers is when you're expecting a baby, when your partner is pregnant, don't say my partner's pregnant or my wife is pregnant, because the baby's listening and the baby hears the separation. When a father-to-be says, we are pregnant, then the baby really feels like he or she's being welcomed to the world by the papa. So remember, babies are listening. Okay, any more slides? I don't know. No. Okay. Is that the last one, Gary? Yes. Okay, so let me show you. Let me show you some. Gary, can you put this on so they can see me? So let's show the amount of blood that a baby placenta, hold on, let's see, I have a fake baby here. So here's a fake baby and a placenta and a cord, umbilical cord, fake umbilical cord. This is fake blood. It's actually not real. This is 450 milliliters of blood or fake blood. It represents the amount of blood that the placenta, the umbilical cord, and the baby share at the time that a baby's being born. So that's how much they share. If the cord is clamped and cut immediately, then the baby will be shy or robbed of at least 150 milliliters, a third of his or her blood supply. This is 150 milliliters. Some studies have shown up to 210 milliliters of baby's blood is trapped in the umbilical cord if you clamp and cut it immediately. So if I took a third of your blood right now, you would have anemia so profoundly, you would probably have to go to the hospital and get a transfusion. Or you might have to lay on the couch or on a bed for a year while you build your blood back up. So is it any wonder that babies whose cords are clamped and cut immediately have such a difficult time starting up their breastfeeding? It's because they lose their brightness, they lose their shine. They need their full blood supply in order to start life optimally. And so please, any of you that are birth keepers, I know some of you are mothers, mothers-to-be, doulas, let's really try to open that discussion up about delaying the clamping and cutting of the umbilical cord. If you can't get more than minutes, right? But this is a lot of blood to lose for a little person. It's a third of their blood. And I know that I've talked to fathers-to-be, and if they are going to be in the hospital when the baby's born, even if the hospital is really conservative and they won't agree to delay cord clamping and cutting, let's see if I can show you this. So baby's born, most hospitals will go right up, the placenta is still inside the mom, go right up skin to skin, and then the partner of the mother, and some families have two mothers. I mean, we have all kinds of family constellations in this day and age, and the partner of the mother can put his or her hands all over the cord and all over the baby and say, I love you, I love you. Oh, can you feel this beautiful cord pulsing? And then the doctor is saying, sir or madam, you put your hands on the cord and I need to cut that cord. You need to move your hands, but now you've put your hands on the cord and it's no longer sterile. So they'd have to do a whole procedure of cleaning this before they can clamp or cut it. And then I say to the fathers-to-be or the partner of the mother, I say, don't argue with the doctor when the doctor says, I need to clamp and cut the cord. Just simply say, thank you, doctor, you're right, but I'm still praying. I'm still praying, and pray over that cord. Now, as soon as the doctor, especially in North America, hears that the family is still praying and they've got their hands on the umbilical cord, he will walk out of the room for 45 minutes to 2 hours. He won't come back because he cannot interfere with the family praying. That's just not allowed. That's something that you'll scare them right off. So that's one of the tricks and a doula can talk to family about that, or a family can make that decision. But if the doula says in the hospital setting, do this, do that, it's not going to be good. Don't do that. The doula should prepare the family before and what the partner of the mother can do to keep the cord intact for as long as possible, and putting his or her hands on that cord and all over the baby, and praying and kissing and hugging and loving on that baby and that cord will keep the placenta intact. Okay. I don't know if I've covered everything, but let's have some questions. What if a mom is rhesus negative and the possibility of positive rhesus? That's okay. The gentle birth like this is fine. It's fine for, we've done many rhesus negative moms. I will say that recently we had a mom who, after the birth of her second baby, her husband was Rh positive. She decided not to have the anti-D. And I mean, it's a human right to make that decision. However, and there's a lot of controversy about this, with the third baby, she was isoimmunized. She did not have the Coombs test, but it wasn't until after the third baby was about a week old that the antibodies that she had passed to him against his Rh positive blood type started to take over, and he couldn't make blood cells fast enough to replace the breaking down of his blood cells by the mother's antibodies. And so he ended up in the hospital with transfusions. So it was really traumatic. I don't really like giving moms injections, but I like that better than the baby going into a NICU. And that's something you might want to get into discussion groups and talk about. Do we have any rhesus negatives moms here today?
Yeah, I am.
Who is that?
Marianne.
Marianne. Hi, Marianne.
Hi, Robin. I asked because when you were at my birth in Washington and in Iowa.
Iowa. Hi, Marianne.
Hi.
Hi, Marianne. Oh my goodness.
Well, I might switch up the light. Maybe you see me better.
I see you. Oh my goodness. So happy to see you.
No, you see me better. It's like, because I remember like when I gave birth in Washington, when we had to go to the hospital, I think the cord was a little bit delayed, but they still did it pretty fast because I was negative and my RNA was positive. So that was why I was wondering. So
yeah, in the hospital, it's more difficult to do it because they have all kinds of reasons. And of course, when we're in the hospital, we can't argue with them. If that birth had happened now, I would have been more prepared to have Renee put his hands all over the cord, because it hasn't caused babies to get isoimmunized more. I mean, the point is if you did you get the RhoGAM within 72 hours of the birth?
Yeah. I think I got it already in the hospital.
Yeah. I'm sure they gave it to you in the first 72 hours before you went home. And we were prepared to give you that at home too.
Yeah.
But it's just much more easy than having a baby go through a very bad traumatic. I mean, it would protect your second baby.
Yeah, so it's just basically then a matter of like the moment the baby is born, then it's no issue as long as the mom gets the RhoGAM. And
yes, and also it's no issue because I don't know why they make it an issue, because also when the more gentle the birth is, sometimes things like episiotomies can have an effect. We don't do episiotomies, but remember when a mother tears, she tears between cells, so there's less blood mixing at that time. If you cut, you're cutting through cells. So there's more risk of getting isoimmunized at that.
Okay. And I
So-
like to share something really nice if I'm allowed to.
Of course.
I was recently at a Congress, and I think you're really gonna like this man. His name, it's Dutch. I will type it later. His name is Jaap van der Wal, and he is a phenomenologist. I had never heard of this term. I will write it down. You can look it up. But he is completely into embryology, and then not the physical. I'll find the word later. But he had a whole, and you know probably more about it, Robin. He talked about the placenta, and it was really nice. And he said we have to know that from the beginning, we are being separated in a body and her body and the baby's body, the placenta. They both come from the same source. The guardian is not an appendix, although you might be attached to it and you breathe through it and you grow through it, but it comes from the same origin as the body of the baby. So basically he was talking about you have a cell, and within one of the first days, the cell starts deviating and you get like all these little cells on one end, and then you have this, it's gonna be the baby, and then you have this round thing, which is gonna be a placenta. And he said, like, when the mom is not getting pregnant, but the baby is choosing, the consciousness of the baby is choosing to be implanted in the uterus of the mom, and this whole process happens. And then when the baby is born, I mean, this sounds a little bit strange. It's like you have a birth and you have a death. You have the birth of a baby that's going to go on his life, but for that to be able to develop itself, something has to die, like everything in nature, and it's the placenta who is going to die. It has to let go of that life. So it's one way the mom has to say goodbye to one part of life, while another one is continuing. I mean, I don't say it as beautiful as he does.
Marianne. It's so true, because the placenta is genetically identical to the baby, and the placenta does die at the time of birth. My whole point in delaying that cord clamping and cutting as long as possible is because I believe that the placenta is the guardian angel of the baby, and I don't want to rush the death. The baby should, if at all possible, sometimes it's not, sometimes we have to have a belly birth. That's sometimes happens. And those moms who had belly births, I want to thank you for doing whatever was necessary to help your baby get to earth and get on this side. But if at all possible, a natural birth and a natural death for the placenta. And then that is how we don't want to traumatize the placenta, because the placenta in spirit is going to stay with the baby, or in spirit, for the entire lifetime of that person. That angel stays with the baby. Isn't that amazing? Through growing up, through adulthood, through making choices. You know, in old Bali, the big punishment if you did a crime was to be taken far away from where your placenta was buried. So you couldn't tune into it. Now, in modern times, of course, Balinese go and they work all over the world, and they take school all over the world, and they bring some of the soil from where their placenta is buried, and they will take it and put it in a little sacred little bag or something, and they'll take it with them if they're moving to a new place, and they'll bring it back when they come home to Bali. They'll always come home, but it's really important. So what this man, you have to send me his name. I want to know more about Jaap. What he says is true. The placenta is a guardian. It's not like an appendix, and it is a separate being with a soul. If you think of it that way, it's profound. Now remember that that when Vishnu was born, he had a navel cord, and his placenta was Brahma. When you think of it that way, you don't want to kill Brahma. And so I want to go back to Neha's question. She says, explain a little more about the physiology of the mom and baby and placenta in lotus birth. And it's just that with lotus birth, it's just a more slow. It's like it slows down postpartum. It, I call it a lotus birth. Once the baby is born and the placenta is born, and you see the three, the Trinity, when you see the three, that's already a lotus birth. If the family wants to wash the placenta blood off and put it in salt and wait for a day or 2 days or 3 days or 4 days, it might be 3 or 4 days before it falls off, then that's a full lotus birth. But you can tell your friends and your family that if they give the placenta a name, it's going to take 8, 9, or 10 days for it to fall off. Every time. When a family calls me and says, we're still waiting. I've been going there every day to their house. Maybe they'll be either have a home birth or give birth at Bomi Sehat. And then they'll say, we're still waiting for this placenta to fall off. The cord just won't let go. And I say to them, did you give the placenta a name? And every time they say, yes, we did. So unless you want to keep that placenta connected to the baby for a long, long time, do not give it a name. Or give it a name if you don't mind. I know that especially the fathers of the babies will get tired of the piece of meat connected to their baby after a while. I know my son did. My son Noel, when his first baby Bodhi was born, and Bodhi is 15 now, he came downstairs and he said, Mom, can we just wiggle that thing off? The cord's already drying up and it's like this piece of meat connected to my baby, and I just feel like I'd like it. And I said, well, first of all, your wife, Ibuwina, wants to leave it. So unless she tells me that if she wants to burn it, it's already dry. It will only take a half a minute. But I'm not going to remove that placenta in any way, and that cord in any way, unless the mother of the baby asks for it, because the mother's closest to the baby. And I said, how did I raise you? Who's boss? And he goes, of course, my wife is boss. So he went back upstairs. They took a nap. And then my daughter-in-law was screaming a couple hours later. And she's like, Mom, come up here. I ran up the stairs. And the baby had pulled off his cord and was holding it like this and giving it to his father, to my son. And she said, I think he bad vibed the placenta. Do you know if he bad vibed the placenta? And I just looked at my son. I didn't say anything. And she said, because look, the baby pulled it off and the baby's giving it to him. And I said, well, the baby's ready. And she cried and she said, I'm not ready. I'm not ready yet. And so my son just pushed the bowl closer to his wife with the placenta in it. And he said, it's okay. We're going to sleep with this placenta and stay in this bed with this placenta until you're ready. And so the next morning she said, go plant a tree. I'm ready. She was done. But isn't that cool that the placenta makes such an impression? And the baby knew that my son was tired of that placenta, and it was already day 4.5, So when the physiology of the mother baby placenta in a lotus birth is just that it slows everything down, and it does create this bubble around the family. And you have that, like I said, anyway, whenever you see, like in Bhumi Sehat, usually takes about placentas. If you physiologically don't disturb the birth, I find that they're never born before the baby's about 11 minutes old. And then they might take longer, but don't even expect it. Very rarely is the mother going to just plop out her placenta when the baby's, only 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 minutes old. It'll be 11 minutes. I've just noticed that. I don't know why, but we're singing and we're being quiet and only gentle, singing mantras, and when the mom's pushing, we're not yelling, push, push, we're just singing. And then afterwards, we don't say it's a boy or it's a girl. We just let it's the family, it's their gift. Let them unwrap their gift. And most parents, they don't try to look at the gender of the baby for a long time. I mean, a lot of parents now, because of ultrasound, know the gender, but most parents, they don't even want to look at the gender. They don't think about that. Once the baby's born, they're just so in love. They're falling in love and bonding, and that first embrace is sacred, and then eventually they will notice the gender kind of naturally. Okay, let's see. Is it possible as a lotus birth with a C-section? Yes. Yes, very few doctors will agree to that, but I've seen it many times here. Our doctors that are our friends do agree to that. So, but don't expect it to happen so easy in wherever you are. Yes, you can encapsulate after a lotus birth, just wash the salt off and then do the steaming. And that's in the placenta book, I believe. What is the belief, though, in terms of eating the placenta after the lotus birth? Does the indigenous culture still believe it's home? Yes. And people who are more indigenous, when they do encapsulate, they will put some of the placenta buried. They always save some, or they'll put some of the powdered dried placenta. So that's okay. Okay. Oh, thank you for Jap's name. You're going to have to send me that in a text message, Marianne. Okay. Nikita, I'm a doula and was recently at a birth. It was a water birth, but the cord was clamped early, I think in 30 seconds. What? And as soon as the cord was clamped, the baby was shocked and his hands went up and he struggled for a moment and then settled back. I'm sorry. I don't know why someone would do a water birth at home and then just clamp and cut the cord in 30 seconds.
This was at the hospital.
Oh, it was at the hospital. Okay. And in the water?
Yes, the mother was still in the water, and the doctor had earlier said even before she went into labor, that she's going to clamp the cord in about a couple of minutes. Won't give more time than that, but she clamped it much earlier. And I have the video, and I don't want to share the video because I don't have the permission from the parents yet. But the baby just did this, like his hands went up, and he struggled suddenly, and then he kind of collapsed. He didn't settle, actually, he collapsed. It's almost like he was collapsing in his mother's arms. But thank God he was in his mother's arms and not.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's pretty hard for me.
So it was almost like she clamped the cord, and just like less than half a second later, this was the reaction of the baby. So it almost like correlated that the blood stopped flowing back to the baby, and that's why it happened.
Yeah, because immediately the baby has oxygen deprivation,
Yes.
and immediately the once in a lifetime transfusion of stem cells and all of the nutrients and all the goodness in that blood, that doctor had no right to do that. It's a human right for the baby to have all their blood, but you can maybe make some bottles like this with 450 milliliters and 150 milliliters of red water and show the doctor. I mean, we've had doctors here that I've given copies of my book to several times, and they don't read it. And then eventually they read it and they say to me, I had no idea. Why was I practicing like that? But they're taught, they're carefully taught how to do not such a nice birth. Okay. Oh, yes. So Marianne's going to send me. Okay. Marianne, well, just email me and I will send you my WhatsApp number, unless you want me just to say it now.
I see Sophia also has a question here.
Named Bodhi, where are you, Laverne? Trying to find you here. You're having a baby named Bodhi? How beautiful. It's a name. Wow. Oh, here. Hi, Laverne. Hi, Bodhi.
He named himself, because I've always just said that he would name himself, because they know what they want to be called.
That's amazing.
While I'm on, actually, I do have a question, because I'm from South Africa, as I know a lot of the ladies are on here, and I mean our cesarean rate is like 94.7%. So for me, from the minute I conceived, I knew that I didn't want to have a hospital birth and stuff. And so I've got an incredible midwife who led me here, which is Marianne. She's not here on the call today. But I also knew that I wanted to have a lotus birth. I didn't even know what it was, but, it just came to me that I wanted a lotus birth. So when researching and stuff, I share it with my friends and family, and obviously everyone's so negative and against it and all of that, which is fine. It's their fears, not mine. But some questions that they kind of asked, which I actually didn't know how to answer, was basically like, how does the blood not go back out the baby into the placenta?
It doesn't.
So it's almost like a valve that closes, right?
see a little bit of back. If you were to lift the baby up like this and hold them up there, like they used to do this terrible thing, and I don't even want to do it to a baby doll, is put the baby upside down, because I can remember they did that to me. They clamp and cut the cord immediately, and then they carry the baby over to be weighed and measured right away, which no baby's born wanting to be weighed and measured. But if you're putting the perfect place is to put the baby right on the mother, and the blood will continue to flow. The placenta is working, and the umbilical cord is working to push the blood into the baby. So it's just not even scientific to say the blood's going to back up into the umbilical cord. And if I have a baby that's very, very blue, I will actually massage the blood in the cord to the baby, or if the baby's not breathing well. I'll do that.
That was one of their questions also, which was, do you have to put the placenta above the baby as like a drip style? But obviously the placenta is pulsing, and the pulsing is getting it up.
Yes, and also it's not that far. The mother's kind of relaxed. She might be in the tub. Of course, you might give birth standing up. I did, but I didn't worry about that somehow. And then after you give birth, you want to lay down pretty soon. And then it's just the right amount of, it just works. And we don't have, a lot of people wonder if the baby will be more jaundiced because of the additional, maybe the divine creator was a complete idiot and decided to give babies too much blood. I don't know. But why do we have so much less jaundice in our Bumi Sehat babies, both in the Philippines and in Indonesia, and the babies I've done in the US and in Mexico and Haiti and Nepal and all over the world? All of those babies have less jaundice than the hospital-born babies who had immediate cord clamping and cutting. So that's a medical myth. And your son, Gauri, your son's cord came off in your husband's hands. How beautiful is that? Her umbilical, okay, and Sophia actually snapped. Wow, Sophia. Maybe for closure, where are you, Sophia? I want to see you. Hi, Sophia.
Hi.
So maybe for closure, you can write a letter to the umbilical cord. Was the cord a little short, or was there just a weakness in that space?
I can't remember. It was 14 years ago, but I still get triggered by it.
Yeah, of course. So I used to so get triggered by the fact that I was held upside down and carried over and banged down on a tray to be weighed and measured, and my cord was clamped and cut right away. And I wrote a letter to my placenta. And I said, well, I really wasn't in control of what was going on. And you can write a letter to your daughter's placenta and to the court, say that you really, in that moment, it just happened, and you just want to express, maybe you want to say sorry, maybe you want to say, I wonder, whatever you want to say, whatever you feel is totally perfect. I took that letter outside in my garden and I lit it on fire. I put incense and flowers there, I picked some flowers and I burned it. And my relationship with everything changed after that. And
Wow.
I think, okay, so think about it. I don't know. I have a backpack here. I have lots of bags. I think my placenta obsession is why people are always giving me beautiful bags. So here's my backpack. It's a little big for a placenta, but we have all these purses and bags, and like my daughter has a purse that's just like the exact size of her placenta, and it's a red-brown color. It has a really long cord like her cord. And then think about it. If you put your purse and you put the cable to your purse on your belly button right there, and then you imagine that you lost your purse. What's in your purse? I have like a Ventolin in here in case I happen to run into someone who's not breathing. I have my money in here. People put their passport, their identification. They put their life in this bag, right? And then if you imagine what happens if you lose your bag. If you lose your bag, that's pretty scary. And I've had people say, oh, if I lose my bag, I'll die. That's how the baby feels when they lose their bag, their cord. So, but for some reason, your baby's cord decided to detach. And if I were you, I would just kind of trust in that wisdom.
Right.
since it doesn't happen so easily, it just happens once in a while, just trust in him. And I've seen it happen. As much as we are into preserving that Trinity, we've had babies born where it just, you know, it's just gone. And we're like, what happened? How did that happen? Or the mother pulled the baby really quickly to her heart. It was a short birth. That can happen. Make sure that it's not bleeding out. Yeah, I can see how that would trigger you, Sophia. I hope it's helpful said to
Yeah,
you.
very much. I will definitely do that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes. And someone here had Namantha had a lotus birth.
So Namantha was on the course and she was pregnant and she gave birth with her husband on your birthday, Robin. on the 24th. Yes, my niece's birthday also. And she she sent me a message that she wanted to share because she had wanted to, she kept a lotus birth for a while and it was a little bit difficult for her breastfeeding. So she cut it before it naturally came off. And she felt sad about that.
Oh, no, that's fine. And if, I mean, my daughter, who is my daughter, I mean, some of my daughters, my daughter in love, my other daughter had a lotus birth. My daughter who has a PhD in reproductive health and she's a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine. After 30 hours, she said, enough. I just want it off. And then we encapsulated. So yeah, she didn't feel like she wanted it on. And I think also, yeah, it was really important to her to have it off suddenly, and that's fine. Again, we have to believe in the mother and the papa's inner knowing, you know.
So she wrote a prayer and she found herself praying. She wanted me to read it.
Well, please read it.
Okay. So she was praying to the placenta, who for 9 months had nourished and taken care of her baby boy, that he has to let go of her now. And please, that I, Namantha, may be able to take over from here to feed him and nourish him and take care of him now.
That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Will you send me that in an email? And will you send me Namantha's email and I'll send her the After the Baby's Birth book?
Wow. Yes. Beautiful. I have shared that book with some people here even. Sometimes I choose which books I take when I travel. So your postpartum book has been one of those, and I'm waiting for it to come back from India still to me.
I'll send it to you and you can share it. And then anyone whose placenta was discarded in the hospital, do write a letter to the placenta. Just give a little explanation and just talk about it. Let it go. Okay, Marianne, I think I have your number now. There was something I wanted to say and I can't remember what it was.
Maybe you want to share about the fundraising also.
Oh, yes. So let me see. I can put it. Gauri, I don't know if you can send it to everyone, but
I can share it. You can talk about it.
Okay. So yeah, if you share it to everyone right now, it just started about 3.5 hours ago. There's a 24-hour fundraising, and the point of this fundraising, it's Giving Tuesday. It's through Global Giving. There's a link in the Gauri's going to share to you. I sent her by WhatsApp the explanation, but it's to buy an ambulance for our Bumi Sehat in Lombok. Lombok is where in 2018 they had really big, devastating earthquakes. And so a lot of our families are still rebuilt, still living in shacks. It's a very unique area called Gunung Sari. And in Gunung Sari, we have a third Muslim people, a third Hindu people, and a third Christian people, all living in harmony, but they have very little resources. And so they need an ambulance, just in case they need an ambulance. You know, like we had a mother who was a teenager who needed to be picked up. And since we didn't have an ambulance, someone borrowed a truck and picked her up in a truck, and she gave birth in the back of the truck. Our midwives, they arrived in our parking lot, and one of our midwives jumped up in there and helped her. And thank heaven that they reached our little place, because this mom had hemorrhaged badly. And we do at that clinic, we do general health care as well. We respond to emergencies, and we really need an ambulance. So we're partway there. I know that, oh, there it is. Marianne put it. Hi, Marianne. You're so good. There's the link to the global giving for the ambulance. Yep. It's 2,000. I think it's much more than 2,000 patients per year. Okay. And Mathumati, am I saying your name correctly? Mathumati?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Rob.
Beautiful name. You birthed from a belly birth, and then they took the baby to the NICU, and you were on the table, and you asked for your placenta, and you didn't have enough knowledge to encapsulate. I just brought my placenta and buried it. Wow, that's beautiful that you buried it and you brought it home. It's huge. You know, most moms, especially after a belly birth, they don't think I mean, my daughter would have lost everything if I wasn't there for her belly. She had my daughter for her first baby had a placenta abruption. The placenta came off, which is, we're really relating this to climate crisis, because she was in California, where in an area where a third of the homes and businesses had burned down. And that's during 9 months earlier. It's during that crisis that they actually conceived my grandson Bear. And then what I'm hearing from the midwives, the nurses, and the doctors there in that area in California is that they have so many placenta abruptions. So the connection where the placenta is hanging on to the inside of the uterus is somehow getting compromised by the problems, trauma from the fire, and also the plastics in the groundwater that burned. And so they're finding that was really, it's been a big problem. Fortunately, my grandson and my daughter were saved by a belly birth, by a cesarean that they really needed. And the next baby, my granddaughter Joanna, who's 2 years old now, 2 years later, she was born by home birth. She had her umbilical cord around her neck 5 times. And I'm here to tell you, you don't have to cut the cord. You can just unwind it. And oh, and Shasta, you had an abruption. Oh, and you left some placenta in your uterus, but baby came out with the rest of the placenta. Boy, that must have been dramatic. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. I birthed really, really quickly when I realized that I was in trouble. I felt myself but it was my 4th baby, so I was able to do that. He just came out right down with everything.
Yep, you just decided go. Yeah. Yeah, my daughter with her second baby, who was a VBAC, everything was great. She's slowly crowning this beautiful, we're seeing about, just about a goose egg amount of baby's head. And then we listened to the heart rate, and it had dropped from 130 to 40. And my own daughter, who was really into everything natural. I mean, she's a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine. And she yelled at me as I reached for the scissors, and she said, "Cut me, mommy." And I did an episiotomy, 15,000 and more births. And our team, including me, has done 5 episiotomies of the Bumi Sehat babies. And one was for my daughter. And the same thing happened with one of our chief midwives here in Bali. And I cut her daughter. So, we don't want the protocol of cutting the mom, but better we cut the mom and she got her baby out in the next contraction. She knew she had to, because hold your breath for a whole minute and see how that feels. And when the baby needs to be born, the mother knows, and she just roared her baby out right away. So mothers are so amazing and strong and beautiful. And yeah. And yours was an unassisted birth. So you probably really had to go into your deep inner self and inner knowing, and you knew you had to birth that fast. Good for you. Amazing. It's amazing. So many beautiful. I'm looking at your faces and just trying to remember all of you that have pictures up here. So beautiful. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I had one question up in the chat, which is that why are some cords really, really long? Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, I can tell you about that. Who am I talking to? Who am I talking?
Nikita.
Hi, Nikita. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, so I have been reading a lot about what makes a long cord, and what seems to make a long cord is eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. And they did a study in Australia, and I didn't save the link to that. They did a study in Australia many years ago, and they found that in times of plenty, the cords were longer. In times of strife, the cords would be shorter. Isn't that interesting? And I had a mother come in. She was just this amazing woman. Her name was Rabia, who is, I believe, Rabia was the mother of Buddha. I think that's where she got her name. And she came in, and she had on a hot day, she had a leather jacket, leather pants. She rode in on this gigantic motorcycle, like really young energy. She rode up, she gets off her motorcycle, and she goes, "Are you Ibu Robin?" And I said, "Yes." And I tried to hug her, and she was just like, "No." And she said, "I'm pregnant." And I said, "Okay, I can see that." And she was about 7 months along in her pregnancy. And she goes, "Just check me." And she threw herself down where we do our checkups, and she just kind of laid down. And I said, "Okay, can I see your belly? And let's listen to the baby's heartbeat. Let's feel your belly." I took her blood pressure already. And I tried to talk to her. She didn't want to talk. She was just like, "Ugh." And so then she lifted up her shirt and moved her pants down. And I saw on her belly a giant tattoo of a closed zipper. And I started to cry. And I said, "You don't have to tell me, but if you want to, you can tell me why you have this tattoo on your belly, why you closed your belly." And she said, "Well, I'm 36 years old. I never wanted to have a kid. And when I was 18, I got pregnant. And my baby had a really short cord, really, really short. And when I was 8 centimeters dilated, the baby died." And she said, "I never wanted to try again. And then my husband tricked me and he got me pregnant. And here I am. I didn't even know I was pregnant until I was almost 6 months pregnant." So I cried with her a long time. I just held her and we cried. And I told her the secret to how to grow a long cord. And I said, "You know, when you're eating oranges, we have like jeruk manis here. It's like, they're like tangerines. They're like mandarin oranges. And any orange or grapefruit, any citrus." And I said, "When you peel it, there's strings, right? All around the fruit. Just take those strings and eat them because they're full of pectin, and pectin grows longer cords." And she says, "Well, I'm already 7 months pregnant." I go, "Yeah, but it's in the last trimester that cord really grows the most. So give it a chance." And I said, "And take the peel and turn it a bit inside out and eat some of the white, that pectin." And she goes, "Okay, I'll do it." And she seriously was so afraid that this baby would have a short cord. And she was so afraid of her trauma in the hospital, she planned a home birth. So she had this long labor and, lots of crying about the baby that had died when she was 18. And finally, she slowly, beautifully, gently, she ended up getting out of the birth tub, into the birth tub, out of the birth tub. And then she squatted by the side of the bed and she slowly, gently birthed this beautiful big baby boy. And his cord was around the neck 3 times, around his body, around his arm, around his leg. And when we laid it all out on the bed, and I didn't even stretch it, I just laid it out. It was like this, it was not even like, we didn't even make it straight. It was almost 2 meters. It was 1 centimeter less than 2 meters. So one is the mother eating all that pectin, but another one was the mother's focus and attention on growing a long cord. So a long cord can be grown. So just like let your moms know that little secret. And then 2 years later, she had another baby and another boy, and she had a very long cord, but not almost 2 meters. That was extraordinarily long cord. Yeah. And the longest cord I've ever seen. And interestingly enough, that she grew such a short cord with the first baby. The first baby's cord was 10 centimeters long. It just wasn't long enough for his birth. So, yeah, what a story. I have so many beautiful stories. It's amazing to be a birth keeper and just get to share the lives of so many mothers and babies. Love it.
And there is one more question from Divya, and I'm also interested in that answer, which is that, so for those babies whose placentas are discarded in hospitals, would their parents writing a letter to their cords and placentas help them with some closure too?
I would, of course, yes. I mean, that's what happened to me, and that's why I wrote a letter to my placenta and talked to my placenta. And it was, thank you for that question, Divya. So definitely it's a good thing to do. I think all of you probably would like to do that. And because I feel like your placenta is like your purse, you know, it's like your whole life is in here. This is taking care of you, taking care of your mother. It's like Ganesha, the caregiver of the family. And so when I wrote a letter to my placenta and I offered it, I burned it in my garden. Not only did everything change, but I was able to finish my book about placenta after that, but my relationship with money changed drastically. I used to struggle to pay the electric bill and all the midwives that made me say hi. And all of a sudden, it's less of a struggle. For the last many years, since I wrote the placenta book, which I think was at 2009, it was published the first time, I have had a much easier time. And I keep opening more and more of these birthing centers and community health clinics. Yeah. Oh, you want more stories? Who wants another story? Okay. Do we have time, Gauri?
Yes,
Everybody's
so
okay?
normally we might take a break like now for 10 minutes, or we just carry on. And depending on your time availability and capacity,
Yeah.
we can carry on for another half hour, hour. I also had a lotus birth with my sham, and I'm not going to share that now, but I will share that at another point with everyone. So this is all yours now.
Oh, thank you. So we had I would say that baby's a month old now. So we had a mother come in. She arrived on motorcycle screaming that she needed a midwife. And just saying, I need a midwife, screaming. And I was in the prenatal room. There were quite a few people, and it was interesting because quite a few Westerners had asked me to come in that day so I could interpret and be there so that they felt like someone spoke English. A lot of Russian people living here now because they're fleeing the war, and Ukrainian people. And so this mother was panicking, and two of the young midwives ran to the little parking area, put their arms around her. Water was gushing out everywhere, getting off the motorcycle. And her husband parked the motorcycle, and they walked her into this one room. It wasn't really a birthing room because the pandemic law is we have to take them into a separate room and bring them into to check if they're truly in labor, and then to do a COVID test, which we always hold the mother's hand, because if you do a COVID test, no matter how gentle you are, the mother's so afraid she has COVID, even though she doesn't have symptoms, that their blood pressure will go up. So we always really try to mitigate that stress. But the mother sees the bed and just throws herself down, opened her legs up and said, I'm pushing, somebody check me. And it was her third baby. She definitely knew what she was talking about. And so our midwife, because the water had released, put on a sterile glove, and she says, to her, may I touch your labia? And she said, yes, just check me. So she touched the mother's labia to begin the exam, and a little hand came out and grabbed her fingers. So this baby is not head down. This baby is sideways like this, with a hand trying to be born first. Now, that's not a very, you can't get a baby out that way, right? That normally require, you have a hole like this, you can't get any, you got to go this way or this way, right? So I heard screaming, and the young midwives were saying, Ibu Robin, get in here quick. We have a little bridge with a fish pond. So I went from the prenatal room, I ran across, and they threw a glove at me, and they said, check her, she's fully dilated, and the baby's hand is coming out. So I confirmed that it was a transverse baby, and I very calmly said, okay, we need to go to hospital, because you have to do a cesarean, a belly birth, to get the baby out in that position. And the young midwife was listening with the Doppler, and the heart rate was going down to 40. And the other midwife said to me, she shook my shoulders and she said, we don't have time. We don't have time. And it's true. If we go to hospital, then we're not in trouble, but the baby dies en route. Yeah. So I said, okay, we all stay calm. Let's just stay calm. And, I go into the prayer zone. I put my hands on the mother's belly and I said, can I move your baby? And she said, just do it, please. I want to push. So I tried to push the head down. The baby's like this, sideways in the mother's belly. And I tried to move the head down like this. And right away, the mother's eyes were like, no. And the baby, really, I could feel it, like, not with words, but I could feel the baby shouting, don't do that. And so instead of putting the head down, I said, okay, baby, can I do this? And I put my hand on the belly where the butt was. And I just gently, not even push, just gently put my hand there. And bloop, the baby went breech. And the little toes started to come out. So I said to the younger midwives, I said, so we have a breech baby. And everybody cheered, because even though we're supposed to go to the hospital and we're not supposed to have a breech baby in a birth center, I don't know why they made that rule. It made that rule about 5-6 years ago. We can deliver the breech, So the mother got hands and knees. We had her, upright breech, but the baby's coming down super, super slowly. Like when the baby's coming down, the baby's born to here and then born to here. And we could see that the cord was really tight, really, really tight. And the baby's heart rate was going down, down, lower, 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 lower. And so we don't want to pull, because that's not good. And the baby's arms were above the head, which is about the worst thing you want to see with the breech, So I was able to gently go up and get one arm down, but the other arm I couldn't reach. It was just so far up, and the baby's head was so high up because the cord was tight around the baby's neck 3 times. Really tight, really tight. I don't even have that long a cord here. Really, really tight. And so the baby's not getting oxygen, right? So I didn't know what to do. And of course, then the baby's born, like you have the back of the baby, and the baby's born to about here, but cannot be born normally. So I reached up inside and I said, mother, can I do this? And I reached up inside and I found this tight cord 3 times. And so somehow, because cords are stretchy and her cord was healthy, her baby's cord was healthy, I was able to get the cord down over the baby's body, kind of the long way around, and then whoop, like this, get the cord down over the baby's body, and then the baby came down more, and then I was able to loosen the cord, and then we see the back of the baby's neck, and then we can go like this and just push the baby up and onto the mom like that. And the baby was born with absolutely no heartbeat already, no life at all. And so in my wonderful team of midwives, they're so amazing. They already had the bag and mask, the whole infant resuscitation kit ready. We have it at all births, but to have it really ready, like that, of course, when they have a breech baby coming, they know that that has to be ready. And immediately the bag and mask was there. And of course, because I have no heartbeat, but what I did have is this cord, which was so compressed, but over here, there was lots of blood. So I started massaging into the baby, the lifeless baby, and the baby turned pink immediately because there was so much oxygen in that blood. Okay. And so we felt hopeful, and we immediately right there next to the mother, we're doing full resuscitation with the chest compressions, 3, 1 and 2 and 3, and the bag and mask, and breathe, and 1 and 2 and 3 and breathe, and 1 and 2 and 3 and breathe. And you know what everyone was doing was singing Gayatri mantra. Om Bhur Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam. And then Dr. Adi, one of our doctors on our team, we don't have doctors for the births normally, just for the sick people, right? And the injured people. Well, he was on the other side of the clinic because birth is over here, not anywhere near the sick people. And so someone ran and got him, and he came with a baby stethoscope, and he's dancing around me while we're resuscitating. Myself and my friend Eka are resuscitating, and I'm doing the heart massage. And he's saying, how can I help? 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 And, you know, we're busy resuscitating a baby. We can't really talk. And finally, I just said to him, I said, you can just pray. They're still talking about it, how I yelled at him, he can just pray. So he started singing Gayatri Mantra. And the husband started singing Gayatri Mantra. So the two male voices came in and added to our voices. And immediately I felt like, okay, the baby's heart is beating. And I said, Dr. Adi, listen to the baby. And he put the stethoscope on the baby, and the heartbeat was over 100. So we knew the baby was alive. And then the baby still wouldn't breathe. We kept, you know, counting 1 and 2 and 3 and giving a breath. And 1 and 2 and 3 and giving a breath. And finally, I said, after a few minutes of that, the baby was pink. The baby's heart was beating well, but the baby would not breathe. And I finally said, baby, we'll give you a breath, but the next one you have to try. 1 and 2 and 3, and with the bag and mask, a breath. Then the next one, 1 and 2 and 3, baby, it's your turn to breathe. And he said, and then again, 1 and 2 and 3, we gave him 1, and then the next one, and then he was breathing. And within a few minutes, just a really quick few minutes, he was on the mother breastfeeding, totally bright, totally alive, totally well. And then Dr. Adi and some of the younger midwives stayed with that baby. I went to take care of the prenatal checkups who didn't want to wait. They were very impatient, interestingly enough. And they stayed with that mother and baby for skin to skin, 2 hours of breastfeeding. Now the protocol, national protocol is when you have to do a full resuscitation on a baby, you should take the baby into the hospital to be checked and observed for a few more hours or a couple days. And Dr. Adi came to me and he said, I'm not going to take that baby to the hospital. They're going to take the baby away from the mother and put him in the NICU, and he's going to die of loneliness because I know what happens in the hospital. I work there. And I said, okay. I said, are you the midwife or am I the midwife? Because you're telling me that you don't want to take the baby to the hospital. I'm always usually telling the doctors not to take the baby to the hospital. But he was so in love with that baby that he just made sure that the mother and baby stayed skin to skin and nice and warm. And I call that mom every couple of days, and she tells me all of these wonderful things about how bright and happy and smiley and amazing he is. And he's gained a lot of weight. He's beyond perfectly healthy. And the tight cord around the neck, Nikita, means that the oxygen, can be reduced. Now, my granddaughter had 5 times around the neck. We don't even have that much cord here, of a very long, beautiful, very nice, thick, lots of Wharton's jelly cord. And my granddaughter was able to come all the way down in crowning before she went into distress. And Shasta's baby was just at the end when he was ready to be born, was when she realized that she needed to push and get him out. So the cord around the neck or a short cord can reduce oxygen to the baby. It doesn't always turn out to be an emergency, but sometimes it does. And then we just pray for the miracles. Look for the helpers. Always look for the helpers.
Sorry, can I ask a question here?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, were you answering my question because I was talking to my kids? Sorry.
Yes, the tight cord around the neck can mean
Yes,
that.
so I'm just trying to understand that cords are supposed to be slippery and they're supposed to be stretchy, and the oxygen is coming from the placenta. So why would the tight cord around the neck without a true knot cause any oxygen deprivation to the baby?
Well, it just would. It just would. Because when you put it around something, it kind of clamps it, it compresses it. And when the cord is compressed, that's why we want our mothers to eat really well and have plenty of nutrients and lots of good fruit and vegetables and lots of protein and all those things, because that grows a lot of big, thick cord and Wharton's jelly and longer cord. So that when the cord is around the neck, it doesn't mean that there's going to be an emergency. I mean, my granddaughter wasn't an emergency until the last minute of the birth. And so, it can, not all cords are nice and juicy and thick and wonderful. You know, we just had a vegan mom whose cord was like, it was like a piece of yarn. And it was really, the baby ended up in big distress. And it was very tight, very, the baby didn't come down. And even though it was her third baby, she ended up asking for a belly birth, a Caesar, because the baby was going into such distress. And it was because the baby was held high by the tight cord that was not, it was not a stretchy cord. So there's some nutrients that it's very hard to get unless you at least eat some yogurt, you know, just from a plant-based diet with no, I mean, it's why even in India where there's, you know, most people are eating a plant-based diet, they still have some yogurt or some cow's milk or something, you know, to get those, there's some essential nutrients that you can't really get from a plant-based diet. So, and that will affect the umbilical cord and also baby's brain development. I'm not against moms being vegan, but I do think that they really need to think about supplementing when they're pregnant and breastfeeding. I do think that sometimes cords that aren't nice and fat and juicy, I see it consistently, and small placentas with vegan moms, because we have a lot of vegan moms, not Balinese, but most of them are Russian. So I just, again, if you want, I will send Gauri a little chapter from my friend's book about vegetable plant-based diet and what could be missing. Ghee is a very, very important food in the last trimester. And it will give you those micronutrients that you can't get in a plant-based diet. So that's really, ghee is very important. And some mothers do admit that they want, you know, when they're vegan, they want to eat ghee, they want to eat some yogurt, things like that. Midwives here have also noticed COVID affecting placenta. Yes, Gauri. I've seen it. Yes, I've noticed it. And a change in the last few years too. Yes, we've noticed changes from environment, changes from, like here, the main source of protein is soy. And the soy is all genetically engineered. So we're seeing placentas that aren't as, they're just not as beautiful and healthy. And so COVID is definitely affecting mothers and babies. It's a very difficult time on the planet. And we have, normally in Bali, the number of moms who die in childbirth is between 4 and 9 on our island per year. That's already a lot for our island. I don't think it's as high as in India. It's definitely not as high as in Africa, but between 4 and 9. And in 2021, when we had the Delta variant, and before that, all of the pregnant women and all of the breastfeeding women were not getting vaccinated at all. There was not happening. And so many mothers had COVID, and the number of mothers who died from COVID in the first 7 months of 2021 was 89 on this island. So it's a very difficult one, because I don't like vaccines either, but it did stop when the moms got, and here we got the Sinovac. We didn't get, my view on vaccines is very difficult because, like, my children are not vaccinated, my grandchildren are not vaccinated, but I feel like every family needs to find their inner knowing, and everyone needs to honor the inner knowing of the mother and the family. And so some of our mothers, most of the Indonesian moms got the Sinovac, which does not have any mRNA. It's a conventional Chinese vaccine. That's what the midwives were all given if I wanted to continue as a midwife. And it was a hard decision. My mother, who's 90 years old, insisted she wanted to get the vaccine. mRNA, the Pfizer or that one. She wanted the one from China. She trusted that. And so that's what I did. I honored her inner knowing. And for each mother and each family member, half of my children decided to get the COVID vaccine and half of them didn't. I have 8 children, and I honor that. I completely honor that. And everyone should honor each other's inner knowing. So the vitamin K, yeah, again, that has a lot to do with your nutrition. It has to do with the mother's inner knowing. It's a very rare thing, the vitamin K. there was one incident where I noticed there was blood coming from the baby's eyes. It wasn't blood from the mom because we wiped the face after the birth, but the baby's eyes and around the umbilical cord were bleeding. And I remember from my friends in Hawaii that they had a baby with the vitamin K deficiency syndrome, the hemorrhagic disorder. And I told the father and mother to please do the vitamin K. And it turned out that their first child died in Moscow from the vitamin K bleeding disorder, the lack of vitamin K. And they had their second baby at Bumi Sehat. He got the vitamin K. He's totally healthy growing up boy. Their third baby, they had at home and they decided not to do the vitamin K and the baby hemorrhaged to death. So, and none of my children had the vitamin K. Now my daughter, who is a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine, she gave the oral vitamin K to my grandchildren. And then she gave it to her nieces and nephews too. So, so it's a hard one. Laverne, you have a question about what if your husband has different beliefs. What have you said to husbands or done for husbands, helping them with a lotus birth and natural home birth and anti-vaccines? Well, I just really try to ask the father to open his heart and trust the inner knowing of the mother. And I ask the mother to open her heart and trust the inner knowing of the papa. And I ask them to try to find a middle way. Like, for example, we have some mothers that really want to have their baby at home. And the father doesn't feel comfortable. He feels more comfortable in the hospital. But they compromise and they go to the birth center. And then everybody's happy, you know? And that just seems to make the father feel more secure. And sometimes just the opposite. The father was born at home and he wants to have a home birth, and the mother doesn't want to have a home birth. But if you have, that's why I like these birth centers like Bumi Sehat, because it's a chance to have a neutral place in between. And then we can also say to the parents, some of these decisions, like whether to clamp or cut the cord after a couple, 3 hours, whether they want to just continue with a full lotus birth and add the salt and wash the placenta and make it full lotus birth, those are decisions that can happen after a few hours after the baby's born. And sometimes the father will come full circle, and it can happen the next day or the day after that, or after 3 days. So, you know, the baby's also trying to impress upon the mother and the father and the family what the baby needs. So honoring that it's a dance. Okay. Oh, and Laverne, you want your baby to help his dad. No, the baby wants a home lotus birth and not to be vaccinated, but your husband is very pro-vaccines and circumcision. Okay, so circumcision, maybe that's the thing that you say, I'll do this if we can not circumcise. Because with my first husband, I was completely not going to circumcise, and my first husband really wanted to. And since our first baby and all of our babies were born at home, there was just no, it's like circumcision just wasn't, if you're not in the hospital, it doesn't come up, right? Until later. And then the father might want to do that. But I actually, with my second baby, who was a boy, my first baby was a daughter, thank God, because I was a teenager and I don't know if I could have been strong enough. My second baby was a son, and the father really wanted to circumcise. And after 3 days, he said, I'm going to take the baby to the doctor, and I'm going to get the baby circumcised. I'm going to take my son to the hospital so that he'll look like me. And I point out, I said, but you know, the baby doesn't have hair down there, and the baby's going to notice before the foreskin, the baby's going to notice that you have hair. But, you know, you want to get a hair transplant, put hair down there so that he'll look like you. But he was really strong on it. And I actually packed my bag and started to go downstairs with my bag, my baby, and my daughter, and said I was leaving because I wasn't going to let my baby be circumcised. I would rather be a single mother. And about that time, my friend, who was an old doctor, he was already retired. He was an old pediatrician from Germany. And he came to my house, and he stopped my husband, and my father and my husband were going to take the baby together. And that's why I was leaving. And they were going to take my baby away from me and take him to be circumcised. And this old German doctor just took them aside and had a talk with them and about uncircumcised penises. He actually pulled his penis out and showed him that he was intact and he was happy to be intact and it was better. And so it does carry a huge imprinting. And don't fight about it now, okay? Please don't fight about it. But I think that we've had 0 babies and we have a lot of fathers say they were going to circumcise. We've had 0 babies end up being circumcised that from Bumi Sehat, because the fathers just fall in love and bond and they decide. Yeah. And the thing about the Jewish faith is like all religions, it's a changing and growing and evolving religion. And I've had very, very devout Jewish families do what they call a Brit Hayam. So a Brit for life. And they have the ceremony, they have the party, and my family's cut the top off a carrot instead of the penis, instead of amputating part of the baby's penis. And Laverne, she says, I do have peace knowing that I very much doubt my husband would actually take the baby to the hospital. Yeah, he's agreed to me having a home birth. Yes. So I just hope that he goes with the flow. I haven't spoken much about birth and the afterwards because he's fearful about it all. But he's agreed to a home birth. So that's very good, Laverne. Where are you? Is your picture up here, Laverne?
Yes, I'm waving.
Hi, Laverne. So, and you're pregnant with Bodhi, yeah? Okay. He's going to be a powerful little guy and he'll convince his dad. Don't worry. Try not to fight about it. It doesn't help. It only makes it much worse. You know? It's
So
really
my
hard.
husband is actually pretty amazing because I'd go to kinesiology and he agreed to having a kinesiology session on his fear that he had around having a baby. And he felt that it really helped. He said that like that debilitating fear, he didn't feel that like in the bones shaking fear anymore, which was amazing.
That's amazing. And so he was circumcised, yeah? Yeah. That could have cemented that fear right in there. And the study pays. Can you, Nikita? I haven't seen this study recently by Cornell. That paternity expressed genes predominate in the placenta from the father. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I'll share that with Gauri and maybe she can share it with you.
Okay. Yes, please. That is amazing. There's so many new studies on the placenta. I've been saving them and I'm going to do a revision of my book soon because it's really important to keep up on it. So predominantly the papa's genes are going in the placenta. But remember, placenta is genetically identical to baby.
I can also actually agree to that because in one of the kinesiology sessions for the baby, for Bodhi, he asked for his own session. Bodhi needed to clear something from his dad at the time of conception, which, as you know, is also when the placenta is starting to form. So I can actually probably agree with that Cornell study.
I can't wait. I cannot wait to read this. Wow. Okay. So can we have one more question? And then my mama is 90 and it's 5 o'clock here. And she really gets hangry if there's not food on the table at 5 o'clock. I know my husband's cooking, but she wants me there. And she was there.
Your dining room table is such a beautiful place to eat.
Right now I have a Papuan mom who's going to give birth early December, staying in Peace Kitchen right next door to us, which we have kind of a extension to our home now next door, and a Papuan midwife and another friend from Papua. And we have a whole family that's here from Taiwan also living with us. So yeah, my kitchen is pretty full of joy and fun. So is there anyone else that has a question or wants to say anything or share anything before I say goodbye? This has been amazing for me. Oh, thank you, Laverne. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just amazing seeing and hearing you and sharing all your knowledge, your stories, and just them all, what you're all doing, Robin, and what you're sharing and spreading with all the women and around you. And just big hug and lots of love.
Thank you. My honor. It's my honor. I feel like every birth keeper out there, we're all a drop in a sea, and we're raising the ocean. Marianne, oh my gosh. I remember so beautifully how you birthed. So beautifully. And I have a direct message. Uh-huh. So, and thank you for all your comments. And please, Gary, can you remember that our mom who just had a baby?
Namanta.
Namanta, yes. Can you send me a reminder and everything else? There is a little tiny book in English that's, I will send the whole postpartum book to her, but I did a whole tiny book that you can give away. You can print them up or just give them, they can read them on their phones. It's just a little booklet called New Mother, I Love You. And it's Indonesian in a few days, but I'm just going to send that to Valerie. She'll pass it to all of you by email. And yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I just did a
remember
project. Go ahead.
when we were visiting you, we had is that the book? What is that?
No, not the New Mother one. This is Pilihan dan Tantangan, Choices and Challenges. In English, it's called My Planet, Myself, and it's for teenagers. And it's a comic book all about the cycles and the changing body and all the issues from online bullying, teen suicide during the pandemic all over the world got worse. Anyway,
Is that in English?
It's not, it will be in English. Indonesian right now. Yes, and actually my Hungarian publishers took it to the Frankfurt Book Fair because it made him cry. So it's really going to be fun to have that piece. I'm really into health autonomy for everyone. That's why we do all these little booklets for the moms. But I will send you New Mother, I Love You. And it's really full of information. And then everyone, the doulas and the mamas and the midwives can share. And Marianne, you're going to send me some stuff. Yes.
Will send me and I can send.
Yeah, I'll send you that link to the Cornell study. And can you also get a link to the book on the placenta book that you've written?
Yeah, just go to
share that.
Okay. And let's see. I will look for, see if I have your WhatsApp, Marianne.
I can also forward each other's.
Okay. Are you +316 430 10135, Marianne? Yeah. Okay. Oh, good. And then please, anybody who wants to, even the smallest donation, tiny, oh, what's this? Oh, Placenta the Forgotten. Yes, there's my book. And anyone who can give through global giving in the next few hours, because it's going on, I think we're up to for 20 more hours, a little less than 20 more hours. They're going to match your donation, and every individual donation from a separate donor gives us some kind of points, and then they give us more money. Oh, we've already raised $7,259. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Getting there in this next 20 hours. I think we'll get it. We need it so badly for this ambulance to happen.
Sorry, Robin, I just want to say one last thing. My son is here and he's looking at you and he's calling you Nani because you look like my mother to him.
Oh, Tanika? Who's saying that? Oh, Nikita, you have your baby with you. Oh, hi. Hi. I'm so happy I look like your Nana. Wow. It's so good to look at you all. I'm trying to soak up your faces and remember you. Can we all go on and like make a picture and you can send it to me?
Yeah, sorry.
Do you know how to do that?
Where?
You might have to put your view, make it like the gallery view, like that. And some people, like Sophia, I don't see your picture.
Okay, is this good for, this is good for everyone.
I love my Believe shirt.
Yes.
It comes out if it looks like Believe or if it's backwards. Okay, everyone. Are you going to take a screenshot, Gary?
Sorry, I'm so like in this, I forget that I'm hosting. A screenshot. Okay.
I have no idea how to do that.
Yeah, I'm also, I'm just going to put it somewhere. So it's somewhere. There you go.
I can take one and send it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've already done a few. I can send it in the group also.
I get so into it, I forget that I'm separate. Well, Robin, thank you so much. Wow. I mean, yeah, I haven't to you for so long, and just, you know, when you connect with Robin, she really just opens up her heart and her arms, and we feel it. And I just brought back so many beautiful memories of Bali, and now I want to just go and volunteer, and and my kids are a bit older, and anyway,
It's a special time.
thank you. Thank you for just offering your time and your energy and your heart and being here for our wisdom of birth. It's very special to me. I think everyone here, and it's just been so enlivening and enlightening to hear more about this amazing part. There's been threads in this wisdom of birth that have come through now also. We started off with singing, and singing became a theme, and it's just, you know, come back now again. And there's other threads of our imprinting, which I didn't expect you to talk about, that we are so connected with the placenta, that we are, there's the oneness in the Trinity, and so much more of that. This is the language we need to bring.
However the cord releases, whether it's cut or burned or it's left until it releases by itself, the Trinity of baby, umbilical cord, and placenta then becomes baby and mommy and family and breastfeeding. So there's always that repeated theme of Trinity throughout our reproductive life.
It's so beautiful.
I
Thank
love
you.
you all I love you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you
Senpai,
so much. Thank you.
I love you. I love you. Can I see all your hands? Yes, let's see each other's hands. All these hands, all full of love, all touching with love. I love you. I love you. Bye-bye. I love you.
Bye, Robin.
Bye.
We're going to stay. Whoever can stay, can stay. We'll just finish off for today. Hi, everyone. Cool. Yeah, Robin is very, very special. I'm just carrying on the recording a bit. I'll switch it off when I feel right. I mean, like, we can just kind of feel the specialness in the air that she's held, and in this, her hospitality and this warm heart. You really feel it, and you really do feel it when you're with her also. So it's so special that she could be a part of this for me, and like remote little wherever doing my little thing, and that I could bring this in an offering to you. And so I would also, you know, part of the ticket price is going to go to gifts and donations, and we'll be offering something from the course to that ambulance. You know, I think there may be more questions around practicalities and that in this time. And, you know, I don't feel for the replay, because we missed yesterday, that there's necessarily a gap in the course because of it. And people have also shared with me thoughts and that feeling. And I'm very happy and grateful that it doesn't feel like there's a gap. what I wanted to do today, we're going to do tomorrow, and that is just the natural progression of it. But I have something more I can share. And so at some point in time, I'm going to invite you all to listen to my presentation on my lotus birth, and we can just chat also more about specifics around herbs and salts and containers. And I don't know when this will be ready, maybe in January or something separate. I'll send you the invite. So I'm feeling very full in that way to close this off, but so happy that by closing this off, we've also opened up another beautiful flower to fulfill. and then we can spend the rest of the today preparing for our closing ceremony tomorrow, because it will be somewhat of a ceremony. Lisa Davis does very beautiful presentations. She's entertaining, and so try and join, because it will be a blast, really. And I look forward to that. I also wanted to share with you a bit more about my courses and that, but don't worry, I'm not going to do it now. But at some point, I'll take the mic just for 10 minutes or something, and just invite you all to continue this amazing birth sisterhood and network we've started, and just the different ways we can stay connected and take that forward. Would anybody else like to say goodbye or have a share before we finish off for today? Did anybody
say I'm so excited that we met Robin, because I've been looking for her book everywhere, and I know it's on Amazon, but you know, sometimes I just feel like if you order from Amazon, you should order a few books at once, and I'm so booked out at the moment. I just want hers.
Oh,
But,
just go directly to, oh, sorry, but just go directly to her website. You can, when you buy her book directly from Robin, all the profits go directly to her clinic. So I will share a link again, but if you just go to iburobin.com and then products, you find all the books she has written, and the only thing is you have to download it. You can order them, I think, also actually as books, but if you do so, she gets the full amount of money and nothing is sticking anywhere else.
Great. And maybe for that, I'll do that. Is also her other poetry books. She's written beautiful poetry books. When I came back from Bali, I took 10 placenta books in my bag and then I took like a few of them even back to South Africa and was selling them. It's a very wonderful book, very full, yeah. But she has those other ones as well that you can see on her site. All right.
Sorry, can I just ask Bali now?
What? Divya,
I want to visit Bali now.
Yes.
Me too.
Yes. Well, I visited. My idea of visiting was to learn a bit more how to open a birth center. But that dream came to an end. But I realized I am my birth center. I just walk it. I just don't have a building. I'm open to a building.
I just want to ask Laverne.
Lisa.
Laverne, whereabouts are you?
I'm in KZN and both are.
Okay. No, because I'm in Johannesburg and I would love to have been your doula.
I know. We're actually in a bit of a crazy part-time at the moment, which I'm really excited for. So my husband and I applied to immigrate to Australia in 2019. And
I'm going to be very
rude
basically and interrupt, and I'm going to say, I'm going to just stop the recording now so we can chat. I just wanted to officially say that for people listening to the replay. We'll connect in person.